There are things you cannot think, simply because you do not have the words. And there are things you say every day that you do not truly understand. Ludwig Wittgenstein built his life around that problem. When we speak of Ludwig Wittgenstein, we are not just speaking about a philosopher. We are speaking about a man who spent his life wrestling with the deepest questions. What can we say? What can we know? And perhaps most importantly, what must we leave unsaid? Born into immense wealth in Vienna, Wittgenstein could have lived a comfortable life. Instead, he walked away from it, toward engineering, then toward philosophy under Bertrand Russell at Cambridge, and ultimately toward a kind of intellectual honesty that was almost ruthless. He began with a bold claim: the world is everything that is the case. In simple terms, he meant that reality isn't made of vague ideas or feelings, it's made of facts. Things either are or they aren't. This was Wittgenstein trying to pin the world down with absolute clarity. From there, he drew a striking boundary. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. What he's saying is simple but powerful. If you don't have the words for something, you can't fully think or understand it. Your vocabulary shapes your reality. And that led him to one of his most famous conclusions: whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. In everyday terms, if something cannot be clearly expressed, then talking about it only creates confusion. Sometimes the wisest thing is to say nothing at all. But Wittgenstein didn't stop there. He began to suspect that language itself was misleading us. Language disguises thought. We often think we're being clear, but our words can actually hide what we really mean. Language can trick us into thinking we understand something when we don't. So he redefined philosophy itself. Philosophy is a battle against the bewitchment of our intelligence by means of language. In other words, philosophy isn't about discovering new facts. It's about untangling the confusion caused by the way we use words. After stepping away from philosophy, working as a school teacher, even a gardener, he returned with a radically different view. He now believed, don't look for the meanings, look for the use. Instead of asking what words mean in some abstract sense, we should look at how people actually use them in everyday life. Meaning comes from use, not from definitions. And this shift led to a deeper insight. If we spoke a different language, we would perceive a somewhat different world. Language doesn't just describe reality, it shapes how we see it. Different words, different structure, different world. But Wittgenstein also understood the limits of understanding others. If a lion could speak, we could not understand him. Even if the lion used words, its experience of the world would be so different from ours that its meaning would be lost on us. Understanding requires shared life, not just shared language. He often reminded us that insight isn't about new discoveries. The problems are solved not by giving new information, but by arranging what we have known since long. We already know more than we think, we just need to see it differently. And even more simply, we learn by rearranging what we know. Learning isn't always about adding new facts. It's about reorganizing the ones we already have until they make sense. But Wittgenstein wasn't just precise, he was deeply human. He saw the strange contradictions in how we live. We are asleep, our life is a dream, but we wake up sometimes, just enough to know that we are dreaming. Most of the time, we go through life on autopilot. Occasionally, we become aware, and those moments are rare and powerful. He also understood how easily we trap ourselves. A man will be imprisoned in a room with a door that's unlocked, as long as it does not occur to him to pull rather than push. The barriers in our lives are often mental. The solution is right there. We just don't see it. And he warned us of our greatest weakness. Nothing is so difficult as not deceiving oneself. It's incredibly hard to be honest with ourselves. We are experts at fooling our own minds. Yet he also embraced imperfection. If people did not sometimes do silly things, nothing intelligent would ever get done. Mistakes, odd ideas, even foolishness, these are part of creativity. Without them, progress stops. In fact, he encouraged us to step down from constant seriousness. Never stay up on the barren heights of cleverness, but come down into the green valleys of silliness. Don't live only in intellect. There's value in play, in humor, in being human. He even suggested a serious and good philosophical work could be written consisting entirely of jokes. Sometimes humor reveals truth better than formal arguments. And beneath all this thinking was a quiet courage. Genius is talent exercised with courage. It's not enough to be smart. You have to be brave enough to follow your ideas wherever they lead. Wittgenstein also wrestled with life's biggest mysteries. Not how the world is, but that it is the mystery. The real wonder isn't in the details, it's in the simple fact that anything exists at all. And about death, he offered a strangely calming thought. Death is not an event in life. We do not live to experience death. We never actually experience being dead. Death is not something we live through. It lies outside our experience. So instead, he reminds us, the eternal life is given to those who live in the present. If you fully live in the present moment, you step outside the fear of time. That's as close to eternal life as we get. Even belief itself he saw as fragile. At the core of all well-founded belief lies belief that is unfounded. Every system of belief, no matter how logical, rests on something we simply accept without proof. And finally, he leaves us with a challenge, not just to think, but to connect. To convince someone of the truth, it is not enough to state it, but rather one must find the path from error to truth. You don't change minds by stating facts. You guide people step by step, from where they are to where the truth lies. Wittgenstein's life was not about comfort. It was about clarity, about honesty, about pushing language and himself to its limits. And perhaps his greatest lesson is this: understanding the world begins with understanding how we speak about it. And sometimes, the deepest truths are the ones we cannot say at all. I'm grateful for the moments shared in discourse. May our paths cross again in the fullness of time.